Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today I'm joined by Issam and Twan.
Hello.
Hey everybody.
And man, do we have a lot to talk about because we have seen two amazing races today in the Superprestige held at the Merksplas. The men's race is the first one that we are going to discuss and it was an absolutely cracker. So Issam, tell us about it.
Yes, the fourth race of the Superprestige and Merksplas it was, and it was a little bit. It was wet on the parcours. It was muddy on the parcours for the men's race. In the beginning, we had Twan and Issam, who was an excellent teammate for Van der Haar, leaving a big gap in the first lap of 20 seconds. And after that first lap, I was like, "This is going to be the winner of the race," but it wasn't. Laurens Zweek was very strong and was able to close that gap with Twan and Van Toerenhout. They joined the front with Van der Haar, of course, who was already leading around round 5. And even Iserbiet, who had a bad start, by the way, and was a little bit yo-yoing, to be honest, together with Van Toerenhout, actually, joined that group. They all managed to get back, and actually, Telente went from a dream scenario to the reality of being outnumbered again. At several cases, it were several guys that were looking strong. Zweek had his strong moments. Then it was actually Arts close in the close stages that attacked, that tried something. He didn't manage to get that gap. And then out of nowhere, it was Van Toerenhout. Several times he was very close. This time he tried to attack before the last lap, and he got that gap. It seemed that Arts was going to chase him and get him back, but Arts had nothing left and just couldn't follow Van Toerenhout. Van Toerenhout managed that last lap. He was able to get that gap. He was able to hold that gap, and he was able to win the fourth manche of the Superprestige in Merksplas. Behind him, it was Iserbiet that got second place, and in a very, very, very close sprint. And I think for the mental health, it's not going to be good for Twan Arts. It was Zweek that got that winning. That got the third place in the sprint, and Van Arts is going to be fourth, or was fourth.
So we really saw a great race with a lot of tactics coming into play during this race. So I would like to have your thoughts about this, especially in the beginning. Telente looked to do the right thing, but then somehow it turned. What did you guys think of the tactics that both teams used in this race?
The tactics in this race made for some truly incredible watching. I think the quick start of Van der Haar really seemed promising, especially for Art, as they seem to have gotten the opportunity to play some team tactics, something they haven't really been able to do in the past weeks. This was, of course, mostly left to the Paul Sauze team. Unfortunately, it seemed like Van der Haar wasn't quite good enough. Course was a little bit too tough to do on your own the whole time. And he slowly got back. I think the Paul Sauze team started playing it better and better as the race went on. I think they started exceptionally poor, but it made for some great racing, so I really appreciate that from them.
I think as well that Van der Haar was indeed not really able to use that situation and win the race in the end. He even said after the race that because of those team tactics and the way he played them, that he had thrown away maybe a potential podium position. I think that maybe the wrong guy was sent in front. I think that maybe if they would swapped it and Van der Haar was the one holding them up and it was Twan Arts that got away, maybe they could have done a little bit better, and it would have been Twan Arts that maybe got the win or something. It could have been playing out different. But at this moment, I think they just have to face the reality that everything they are trying at this point, they come back to the same problem, and the same problem is that they are getting outnumbered by the Paul Sauze, and it's just at the moment that when you have tactics getting used in a race, there is no one better than Paul Sauze at this point.
But how did they let themselves get outnumbered? Because at some point Van der Haar was gone. Then, okay, Zweek can close the gap with Arts, okay. But Iserbiet, he had a really bad moment. He even looked to be out of GC. He was in 7th place. And yet somehow they managed to allow Zweek to take the lead. And then drop the pace so big that first Van Toerenhout closes 10 seconds. and Iserbyt closes 20 seconds. I mean, that's not smart, is it?
No, in terms of tactics, it's not really that smart. I mean, they should have done it. They should have played it different. I think the moment that Sweek and Arts joined Van der Haar, it was clear that Sweek at that moment knew that he was outnumbered by the Telente boys, and he knew that he had to let Van Toornhout first of all come back. So he tried everything to do that, and he took the lead immediately. Van der Haar was trying to get in front, but in the end, you just see that they know how to play those tactics better than Van der Haar. Van der Haar was really out of his element at that point, didn't know what he was doing, trying to get in front and looking behind, and then he was at a certain point. If I remember correctly, he there was a gap between Van der Haar, Sweek, and Toon Aerts, who was on a gap, and he didn't notice until the end. Then he looked behind, Sweek takes over. Again, the whole pace goes out, and just, they played it so smart. I think most credits for this Van Toornhout win has to go to Sweek, because he played a big role for Iserbyt and Van Toornhout to come back.
Yes, because you saw the few times that Sweek, I think 2 or 3 times in a corner, he went so slow. I mean, I don't know if they were about to fall off their bike. That's how slow they went. Easy 3 or 4 seconds gain in just one corner, and that a couple of times. Van Toornhout did it later on again, but that was when he was leading, trying to create a gap, which in the end kind of worked. They did come back, but he did open a small gap then. I think it was with 3 laps to go-ish. I don't really know if it's really sportsman-like to do those types of tactics. Of course, it's allowed, but you could see a big difference, I think, that Aerts and Van der Haar, they were more trying to play it fair, whilst you could see these guys from Paulshouse, they look to be willing to do more for it, taking more risks, taking some overtakes where I think about, it's not the right moment or the right place to do it, using your shoulder to get through. Those stopping things, it's not really the common team tactics or tactics that you see between riders, and I don't really know if that's how we would want this sport to be.
At some point, I also just wonder why, like, if we're going to go in that route, like you say, like people barging each other out of the way, putting a shoulder in there, I wonder how far away we are from someone just like taking a rocket start like Van der Haar did, and instead of Toon Aerts just like slowly slowing everyone down and just taking it like pretty easy. But when is it going to be one day where it's just like not really that wide, where you can just put your bike across the road and just stop everyone? Like that, if that's allowed.
I think that it's indeed there is going to be a point where it's going to be criticized. At this moment, we're still not there at that point. I have to say I love it, because we have to. I think that the race would have been less excited if there was not this event taking place, if there was no tactics, if it was pure racing. I mean, some would disagree with me, but I personally like the entertainment part. But yes, I think in terms of safety and ruling as well, there comes a moment where you have to maybe look into the situation and say, okay, well, can you put someone in a dangerous position? What's going on? And at this moment, we still didn't reach that, but at some point, maybe we can reach that point.
It was for sure definitely on the limit. Some could argue it's over, but I would say this is about the limit. You can't go much further, because we have seen Iserbyt 2 times going in that corner on the cobbles, that 90-degree right-hander. Because he's smaller, he just tried to come like under Aerts or in the sandpit. We saw it on this side shot, that for absolutely no reason, Iserbyt puts his shoulder into Aerts in the hope that Aerts crashes or needs to get off his bike. So the guy in front, probably would have been Van Toornhout, would have gotten a gap. I mean, especially that move in the sand, it was just unnecessary.
I think the move in the sand, it can be a product of circumstance. Like, for example, he could just have caught a bad rut and just gotten swung to the right a little. But certainly if there is reason to believe that he did this on purpose, then it should be something that we look at, because that's just simply not fair.
Well, I think we've talked enough about the tactics. Michael Vantoor now taking his first win here in a race that counts towards any classification. It's his 4th win ever, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely some good stuff for him, that he can finally take the win here. What do you guys think this... I mean, the win meant a lot to him, but what do you guys think this win means for the future for him?
I think a lot of confidence, for sure. He did a lot for the team. He did a lot for Iserbeat and for Sweek. He played a big role in this team so far, and I think especially for his confidence, this might be that push that he needs to be able to get those next few victories out.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I think up until now, for me especially, I didn't think he would be capable of winning a race, or if he would win a race, it would be a race like the Koppelberg, where it really is a bit of more of a climbing parcours. So I think for the team as Paul Sausen, this is huge. He's shown that he can, well, actually be better than Toon Aerts. We might have seen it in small instances this season, but this is just that big confirmation, and I think everyone will be full of confidence after this, and it will become even harder for Toon Aerts to actually achieve anything this year.
But it could also work both ways, that now Vantoor knows he can win races, and he will be a bit more confident, and in the pre-race briefing he will say, why are we going for Iserbeat? I won last week, I want my shot. And Sweek will say, yeah, well, last week I did a lot of work, why can't we go for me? So it could potentially cause a few cracks within the team, but I mean, I definitely think it's good for Vantoor now that he finally lit up that potential that we all saw in 2016 when he won the Poldercross in Kruijbeek, beating Wout van Aert in a 1v1 battle there. I think it's definitely good for him that finally he knows that he's back, at least at that level that he hit there.
Yeah, and I think he had so many second and third places. I mean, he is a guy that has regularity being in the top 5. So yeah, it's not really a good situation, or it's a very good situation for him that he is able to do that.
Yes, I think so as well. But then we should take a look at the entire top 10, because we already saw that Vantoor was the winner in front of Iserbeet, Sweek and Aerts. Then we see 2 Dutch riders. It's Van Kessel in front of Van der Haar. Then we see Orts, who probably had the race of his life, ending in 7th. Niels van der Putten 8th, Daan Soete 9th, and Dieter Sweek rounds of the top 10. I already mentioned it, Orts riding an absolute stunner of a race in 7th. You could see him every lap coming through the corner there up to the straight, seeing the leaders, and you could see this look in his eyes. Whoa, is that the lead? What am I doing here?
He was very surprised indeed that he was seeing the front of the pack so close. He normally doesn't see them, but now he was able to stay very close to him, and I think it's very good for him. A lot of confidence that he's getting out of that race. But overall, he did a very good race. I mean, it's not only because they had the team tactics and stuff that he was able to capitalize on that. He also just rode a very good race, and maybe we never know. But these are the type of races he really likes, and maybe he can one time get that top 5.
Yeah, I think Orts has done a superb job here today. Of course, we see some names that were not really all that used to here today as well in the other cross at the women's side. Certainly done a good job, and I think he can be proud of this. And I hope he can build on this and continue just getting some solid top 10s here.
One of those names being Dieter Sweek, who finished in 10th. Quite a good performance by him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he has really been improving. Of course, now hitting the age of 27 as well. So maybe finding his stride a little more. Of course, had to move teams after Paul Sausen cut ties. And luckily he found a home with Creddy Shop Friestad. And he's been doing an alright job. Some 13th places and now a top 10. Getting to the peak of his career, I guess.
And of course, another impressive performance by Niels van der Putte, ending in eighth here. Ending in eighth here. It's definitely good, and I think someone like Dieter Zweek, Niels van der Putte, they took advantage that some guys that usually were there, like Ryan Kamp, that they had a nasty crash, and that could bring us to the next topic that we have. The crashes. There were quite some crashes today with quite some potential injuries as well. What did we think about that? Was it maybe some rider mistakes, or was there some safety issues on that downhill?
I think the hole on the downhill definitely caused some safety issues that shouldn't be there. Of course, it is it is always a little bit the rider's mistake, because plenty of riders did go left and right. But I think they should have tried harder to fix that hole in between the men's and the women's race.
I think definitely what was, in my opinion, a little bit risky was after the start, when you had the couple section there. Especially at the start when it was wet by the men's race, it was it was weird that nobody crashed there. In the end, there was, I think, 2 guys at the back that crashed, or one guy really had some issues and was taken to the hospital, I think. The other guy could continue, and we had, of course, Maine that had a nasty crash, as well as Kamp, who in the end still finished the race. I think the same was for Maine. But they were, they were not on their full potential, I guess, because of that crash. The crash really hurt them, and they were not able to continue the race like they supposed to.
I think it was just very unfortunate that the rain, it probably wiped out a bit of a loose section there, and it caused that hole. It's not easy to fix, but it looked like most of the riders didn't know that hole was there in the beginning, so it probably formed after they had done the recon of the parcours and going towards the race, that somewhere where that hole was... Yeah, somewhere there, that was the moment that hole was created, and unlucky that they didn't know it. Hopefully the likes of Cameron Mason and Thomas Main are all fine, so that would at least be good for their season, because the Under-23 World Cup is starting next week, but that will be for our preview podcast. Then we should talk about the women's race, because we already talked about this exciting men's race, but the women's race was almost as exciting. Twan, tell us what happened in that race.
At the start, we see another very good start by Celine Delcammer Alvarado. This is something that we definitely couldn't say about Denise Betsma, unfortunately, completely missing her start. As we go through the first lap at start finish again, we see that Betsma wasn't even within the first 15 places. It was Brandt that was with Alvarado, Worst being slightly off the back after a bad sand section, and that would really set the tone for the entire race. Annemarie Worst kept on having to chase after the sand section, even if she had fought back a little bit. And Alvarado and Brandt really seemed to be fighting it out, with a big mistake from Brandt there in the second to last sand section. She nearly fell back all the way to Denise Betsma, who was riding a superb race, a real comeback on there, but it wouldn't quite pay off as Alvarado went into the last lap. She unfortunately crashed twice, and that is why Brandt was able to overtake her, and Denise Betsma as well, and Lucinda Brandt would go on to claim victory ahead of Betsma and Alvarado.
That was a great race indeed, and you already mentioned it, Alvarado crashing twice in the last lap. She really gave away a victory there. She herself said that in the first one she did nothing wrong, the second one was a mistake caused by tiredness, but do we really think it's tiredness? Because I was watching with Issam, and Issam thought that there could have been something with her wheel. Maybe you should share that with us.
Yeah, we watched the race together, and we could see that I think 1 or 2 laps before the last lap, she had she went down the descent where you normally where Brandt was running it down. Some go on the bike and go with the bike downhill there on that descent, where you also have to run a lot with the stairs. And I don't know, but she she went there pretty aggressively and she didn't land well, and I think it might either be that the front wheel had a small bend in it, or there was something wrong, maybe a slow puncture or something. I don't think that it was only her mistake. I think maybe the fatigue helped with the mistakes she made, but I definitely think that there was also something wrong with the bike. And it was still, she had the time to go and change their bike, especially after such a hard hit. You don't know how the bike is reacting on that. Now it was a crash. Maybe next time is a chain that falls off. You really have to be careful with those shocks, and be willing to change your bike.
It's a shame for her because she could have won here. Now she finishes third, and for us it's at least good because the Superprestige classification has become even tighter between Brandt and Alvarado. Vorst looks to be out of this, but as we already said, Alvarado lost it by crashing twice. Betsema also lost it by having a bad start, not the first time this season. What is causing her to have these bad starts, and why is this happening so often?
Of course, she has to start from quite a way back, since last year she missed out on a load of races because of her suspension, and thus a load of points. And she is, of course, slowly moving her way back up there. And I think she's just having a lot of trouble starting in traffic. And that's costing her a lot of power, and I think costing her wins at this point.
She was after the race, in the interview, she said that she was very happy with the result, that she didn't expect it, which makes me crazy, because I'm like, you could have won this race if you just had a little bit better start. You were the strongest, so why are you happy? You shouldn't be happy. But I mean, that's on a personal level. That's everybody how they would look into a race, I guess. But it was just a little bit weird.
Well, let's hope for Betsema that she can solve this issue that she has at the starts a couple of times now. So next week in Tabor or where's other Kortrijk, doesn't matter which one or both maybe she's riding. Let's hope she can solve that, because she does look strong and it would be nice to see her at the front. Somebody else who looked to be better this week than last week, a lot better actually, is Sanne Kant, ending 5th. She probably responded to the critics that she got this week from Paul Herreigers. She answered them by smashing the pedals, finishing 5th today. Do you guys think she's on her way back to the top, or is this just an incident?
I think this is her peak. I don't think she will get back to the level where she can challenge the 4 Dutch women that we currently see in the top 4. And I think this is her type of parcours where she should be doing well. And that is why she's able to get a 5th place out of it.
I think it was a good performance from her. There was a race that suits her. It's too early to say if this is her, her peak performance. But she really showed that she still has some abilities left. In these type of races where she's very good at, that she might can get a podium out of it. Now she only managed 5th, which was still a very good performance, I think, and definitely a good way to show the criticasters, look, I'm still here, I'm still riding, I'm still worth my money, and I don't care what you're saying, I'm just going to try to do it. And it's a very good answer, and I mean, let's hope for her as well that she's able to get a podium out this season.
It would be good, because even though I'm Dutch, it's kind of getting boring to see all these Dutch women at the front. But on the other hand, it's not boring at all because they battle. But a battle with Sanne Kant in between those girls would make it maybe even more fun. But let's hope for her that she can improve, and let's hope for Belgium that she can improve as well, because cyclocross without any Belgians in the front, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it doesn't, and the rivalry is also very good, but like last year as well, or I mean the year before, with Kant being up there with the Dutch riders, it was also very fun to see. So, let's hope that she's able to get back to that level at least.
Let's take a look at the entire top 10 then. It was Brandt who took her 3rd win of the season in front of Betsema, Alvarado and Vorst. Then we already mentioned Kant, who finished 5th, Then we saw Jara Kastelein in 6th, Manon Bakker in 7th. Then we find Anna Kay, Puk Pieterse and Clausel, who finishes the top 10. If we look at this, we have some names that we haven't seen in the top 10 that often, one of them being Anna Kay. She looks to have found some of her form back that she had last year. Didn't have the greatest start to her season this year, but now 8th place, definitely good to see, and especially for the team that they finally get a top 10 result again.
It's not the type of parkour that suits Kay, to be honest, and to get a top 10 is very promising for her. Finally getting back in the rhythm, I guess. She had a tough start, managed a few top 10s here and there, but now maybe this is the first race to the top 5s maybe.
Also a strong performance by Puk Pieterse, ending 9th. One of the only ones to jump the barriers, so that's good by her. And also a decent race once again by Clausel and Rochette. Definitely good to see that there are some new riders coming into the mix for that top 10 place, and we should keep an eye out on them in the future, because especially Kay and Pieterse, they have some growing margin, and Clausel as well, because she doesn't ride cyclocross at this level for that long. Well, I think we've had it all for the Superprestige at the Merksplas then, unless Issam or Twan still want to say anything.
Yes, I want to say one thing. I don't know if Eurosport is watching, but it's Laurens Sveek and not Laurent Sveek. That's just terrible, but yeah.
Or Lucinda Brandt.
Yeah, I think they can do. They can maybe ask us a little bit about the pronunciations, because they they have some completely wrong. But yeah, that's all.
Well, then I'm still going to give our listeners some other results, because for the first time in quite a long time there were also some C2 races outside of Belgium. We had the Toy Cup in the Czech Republic held in Jičín, and the men's race was won by Jacob Dorigoni in front of Michael Boros and Jakub Riemann. The women's race there was won by Joyce van der Beke in front of Anne Morchiron and Carla Stepanova. Well, that's a hard name. There was also another cross in Poland. I don't know where that was held, in Gostein, and the men's race there was won by Marek Konwa in front of Batovs Milker, and Wout Vervoort completed that podium. Not a lot of real known names competing there, but in the women's race there were a bit more common names. We saw Catablanca Vaz absolutely dominate there, winning by almost 2 minutes over Suzanne Verhoeven, and Paulina Royakkers ended third, 3.5 minutes down. Can't wait for Vaz to come back next weekend and compete with those, because that definitely looks promising.
Just 10 finishers as well.
Yeah, not the most contested races, but that probably means that there's some nice UCI points up for grabs there, and that's probably the reason that they went there. Well, I think we've had it all then for this episode of the Cyclocross Social podcast. Unless Twan still wants to say something.
You missed the race in Japan.
Twan, thanks for the info, and especially for you, I will give them the winners. In the men's race it was Hiri Oda who won, and in the women's race it was Mio Imai who took the win there. But this time, I think we've really had it all. Issam and Twan, thanks for joining me once again today.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for hosting.
And with that said, I think we are ready to prepare for next weekend. Finally, the first double header of the season. It feels super strange to say that, as it's the last weekend of November. Also coming up next week, the return to cyclocross of Wout van Aert and Tom Pidcock. A lot to look forward to, and of course we will be having a preview on that weekend, maybe even 2 previews for both race 1 coming up for you later this week. And of course next week we will have a double episode in the weekend as well, when we discuss what happens in Kortrijk and in Tabor. Thank you guys for listening, have a great week, and goodbye.